Hi everyone, and welcome to the first VSC bilingual webinar. Today's session will be conducted in both English and Korean and will focus on business. If you're new to our program, Virtual Student Experiences, or VSC, is a pro bono initiative spearheaded for students by students. And we at Virtual Student Experiences want to be the inspiration for aspiration. Our goal is to give students around the world an opportunity to hear from professionals in their career industry of interest in a friendly and casual setting. And if you're a student that knows what you want to do in the future, we at VSC want to encourage, allow, and connect with professionals. Through VSC, students are given the chance to decide if their career choice fits their personality, skills, and really overall interests. Through VSC, you'll be given a chance to hear from a wide variety of guests from a wide variety of seniority levels. And to find out more information and to sign up to be notified about other webinars, you can visit our website at www.virtualstudentexperiences.com. And before we get started, I just want to let you all know how this is going to work. So firstly, I'm going to be asking our guest professional, that I'll introduce in a second, a series of base knowledge questions so that you can get a good idea of who he is and what he does. To change the audio source of this webinar from Korean to English or English to Korean, you can click on the interpreter feature at the bottom of your screen. If at any time you have a question that you think of, feel free to post it in the Q&A module and we will get to it in the later part of the webinar. We highly recommend that you ask questions during this webinar because it's the opportunity to get an answer right here, right now, instead of reading about it later on the internet. And real quickly, just introducing our core team of volunteers, we have Becket, Gabby, Jonathan, Coco, Audrey, and Tommy. And now our guest today is Mr. Scott Koo. Mr. Scott Koo is an extremely seasoned executive career, which started at Purdue University, where he received his bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science. He then studied at Hawaii Pacific University, where he received another master's degree in information systems. He then landed a job as a systems analyst at Decision Research Corporation, where he worked for a few years before moving to Microsoft. At Microsoft, Mr. Koo worked his way up to being a senior engineer manager before moving to a position at Samsung SDS, where he is now the president and CEO in the US. We are very happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Koo. Oh, Mr. Koo, I think you're muted. Can you unmute?
I just unmute. Okay, it's a pleasure to be here.
Just to start us off, can you tell us what business is to you and how you got into that field?
So obviously I majored in computer science, so that was the field that I was really wanted to get in. Actually, my study starts. Actually, I applied Purdue as aerospace engineering, but at the time I was a foreign student, and it was very difficult for me to get a job after I get a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering. So I switched my career over to computer science. But that really got me to where I started the job at Decision Research. I work as a system analysis, and I think the computer, especially the software side of business, was changing everyone's life day to day. So I really wanted to get into a company where I could impact most of the lives, which is Microsoft. So I started my career at Microsoft. I did touch many different products. Probably you guys all know Microsoft Office is where I actually participate in the development team. I did participate in Visual Studio, which is a development tool, SQL Server, and also Microsoft Search. I spent a lot of times on the engineering side, and I decided to pursue in the business side of aspects. So I got a really good opportunity from Samsung SDS. So I joined SDS as a vice president about 14 years ago. I worked in Korea, fortunately, for 10 years. and I dispatched to US for leading and operating North America operations. We spend, we do a lot of work in solution and service, which is the software side of it for enterprise space. So I'm sure you guys don't, you're not familiar with some of the offerings that we do, but SAP, Salesforce.com, those are the companies really focused on enterprise space, and we do the same. Uh, that's it for now.
Hmm, awesome. And then looking at your education, can you tell us about maybe some of what your most important takeaways from that time were?
Education. Well, like most of Asian parents, like my parents really got me into education from very early. I had a tutor when I was just, in the third grade all the way to like intermediate school. But the interesting is, my father didn't really tell me what I should do for a living. All they're telling me was he told me to get an education, at least bachelor's or master's in the field that I really like to pursue. So that's what I did. And when I first got a job as a system analysis, that's when he told me that now you're in the computer field or software field, I should be really good at what I do. And I should be very professional, and I should be, one of the top programmer at the time, software programmer in the world. So that's when I decided, well, if I want to be a number one in that field, I should work for number one software company. So I applied Microsoft, and I was fortunate enough to get hired, and that's how I started. But the education is something that uh, give me a good foundations. Once you get a job, then it's just a matter of how you pursue your dream. You have to understand what you like to do. Um, but I think education, especially when you go through college, cannot teach. It taught me how uh, to follow my passion, but also trying to work really hard, passionate about a lot of different things. So I think those are something that I learned throughout the college year, and that actually I still cherish because I think that got me where I am today. So hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just thinking about your college experience and what classes you took, do you have any suggestions as to what classes students right now should be taking?
Um, I don't know if some of the students here listening here, they're if they want to major in computer science, I think they really need to think it over because it's not an easy field. But everyone has a different potential, and they have different skill sets. Um, I thought computer science was something that is very artistic because I was really good at art. Actually, I got a 4-year scholarship from art school in Boston. But then my parents thought that I don't think I will make a living having an art major. So I got into aerospace engineering, and then because of personal reason, I changed to computer science. There wasn't many choices, but I was really good at mathematics. So I looked at what I really good at, and mathematics, science, those are the field that I really liked. I liked when I was in high school and all my years. So that's what I did. Um, I think one of the things like you know, I think every major there's a prerequisite. You have to take certain classes. One thing I could tell you is I never thought about changing my career. I studied once I changed to computer science. That's what I did. I got my master's, and for last 25, 30 years, that's the field that I was in. Well, I did go from engineering background to now business, so I don't do any programming, but that's the field that I'm very comfortable, and that's where I am. But when I first took my computer science class, the lab, actually I flunked it. I didn't do well. So I thought, well, maybe I don't have a skill. I don't think I'm good enough for being a computer scientist. So I asked my lab assistant, that happens to be a graduate student, that maybe I'm going to consider changing a major. And actually, she told me that she flunked the same lab 5 years ago. Now she's a graduate student in computer science at Purdue. So I said I'll try one more time. So then, I went to graduate school, and now here I am. So it's if you're pursuing business or medical field or computer science, whatever, I think you should look at what you're really good at, and then try, you know, give your second chance. Because yeah, I didn't do really well because I haven't took any computer science class when I was in high school. I never owned computer when I was in PC when I was in high school. But so it took me some time to understand the computer and the programming. But once I got to know it, then I could excel. So a lot of students, my recommendation is, if you think you like the field and you think you're really good at it, then you might not do well at the first time, but you might want to try to give a second chance. That's what I did. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that inspiration. Um, and just thinking about your experiences in terms of your job experiences um, at Microsoft, can you tell us about your time as the senior software engineer manager and what your responsibilities were in that position?
Okay, Microsoft is a big company. I joined in 1995 when Windows 95 was just launched. Back then, it was still a small company. It was under 10,000. I think Microsoft now has over probably 120 or 150,000 employees globally. But at that time, I think it was about 6,000 or 8,000 employees. There are very few Korean uh, employees working at Microsoft. Um, I think um, what I do was uh, one of my mentors um, told me that when you try to do something, you have to be very philosophical. Like, you have to ask why you're gonna do that. And also, my mentor told me you need to connect the dot. Each dot represents maybe one time of your milestone. So when I joined Microsoft, I thought about what I want to be in 5 years or what I want to be in 10 years, and I had this dream. I say, well, I want to be maybe CEO one day. I want to be executive one day, and what can I do? So if I if I do programming for the rest of my life, then I'll be just programmer for the rest of my life. But I have one dot which represents like a one position career, one of the career in Microsoft, and one position would be engineering manager, and one dot would be something I try to connect the dots. So first thing what I do was I asked Microsoft, I want to work for support center where if there's a Microsoft has a problem, it's enterprise software. So when the company has issues with the Microsoft program, that they dial into the support center, prepaid, and we engage the customer and try to understand how customers are using Microsoft program or software. So that's where I say I'm going to spend maybe 2 years trying to understand the support environment. And then I went over to testing department where I spend days and nights trying to test the product, make sure that the product has no bug when it released to the market. So I spent 2 3 years there, and then I went to lab manager and then engineering manager. Once I went through the whole thing, I feel like I think I understand the overall kind of business flow at Microsoft. So one time I had a lunch with one of my colleagues. He used to be managing director at Oracle, and he said, "Hey Scott, how come you don't really switch jobs? Because I stayed in Microsoft for over 10 years, and for the past 10 years, he switched to like 4 or 5 different jobs." I said, "Well, because I want to retire at Microsoft, right?" And he says, "But at least you should look around just to see, what's your value. I mean, how much is your value to the company?" So I said, "Oh, okay, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'm not making enough money here. Maybe I'm worth more than what I'm getting paid." So just for curiosity, I applied for Amazon and I got a job. Um, and then the offer was amazing. Like it was really, really good. So I told my boss that like I don't want to go to Amazon. I want to stay at Microsoft because this is where I really want to work at. And then they matched me, so I was happy for 2 3 years. But I wanted to pursue business side of things. So when Samsung offered me a job and offered me to work in Korea, I thought that would be a very good opportunity for me to work in Korea, try to understand the culture. Or so I said, okay, I'll work there for 2 years, but then I ended up working there for 10 years and I came back here. So that's how I ended up. But I try to connect the dots, and I think I I I think I connected that enough so that now that I could see what it looks like. Sometimes when you're young, you connect the dots like with the numbers, and sometimes it ended up dragon, and it could be ended up as a flower or whatever. So you need to kind of vision what you're trying to draw, and then try to have these dots to come up with something. Do you want to draw a dragon or you want to draw a flower? And for me, I envision something that is going to be something, right? It's something that I wanted to be pursuing the next, what I be after 20 years. And I think I'm very close to that if I retire. And once I do it, then I'm going to try to do something I really like to do as a hobby. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for that really nice visual of connecting the dots. At this time, I'll pass it off to my partner, Audrey, who is going to be asking some questions in Korean. And for students, feel free to select whichever audio channel you prefer to hear. But for this next segment, the Korean will be English and English will be in Korean. All right, thank you.
네, 안녕하세요. 네, 그렇습니다.
Hello. From now on, I will be asking questions in Korean. The first question being, what kind of responsibilities do you have as the CEO of Samsung SDS US? In Samsung SDS America, there are about 1,200 employees. America, Mexico, and Canada. We have different works here concerning solutions, ITO, B2B, etc. But my biggest responsibility as the CEO is definitely being responsible for a company in general, in order that our company can be efficient in making money, because we need to make profit. Because even if we make a lot of money, if there's no net profit, then we will go bankrupt. Also, that our company does not do anything illegal, and that our employees will be able to have a good environment for effective working. The most important thing is that how are we contributing to society, and how is it that we will be able to do a lot of good work in America in general? Creating a very workable environment for our employees. I see. You have shared with your responsibilities for a CEO, but what do you think, what kind of influences do you think that you have on others? What responsibilities do you have? There are things like responsibilities and accountabilities, and for every employee, they have their own part and they have their own responsibilities. But for a CEO, there's no one above me. And so I need to be responsible for everyone who's working under me. And I have said earlier, we really want to be able to make a workable environment. Every day when we are going to work, from 70 to 80%, I would think that my responsibility would be my employees. How can I make it so that they will be able to work more casually and more comfortably? How can I coach them? other 20 to 30% of my work is basically drafting in a lot of good, diligent workers, people who are fit for the job, interviewing a lot of candidates so that we have really hardworking employees.
그 질문에 특별한 역량은 필요한 게 있나요?
CEO의 역량. CEO의 역량. 그런 거 물어본 사람 처음인 것 같은데 CEO의 역량이라고 하면 저는 그렇게 생각해요. 사람 인터뷰할 때 뭐 5년
When
뒤에
you interview people, what do you want to do 5 years later, 10 years later?
사람들이 열심히 하는 사람이 있고 그런 사람이
There are some people who are hardworking,
뽑을 때 열심히 하는 사람보다
and when I choose employees, rather than hardworking people, I hire competent people.
못하더라도
But what's more important is even if they are not very competent now, if they have a very clear vision and a very clear goal set, I want to be something 5 years later, 10 years later, in order that they have a very planned future. I believe that they are a lot more stable and they have potential for progress and improvement. And that definitely equates to your company itself being able to progress. And a new employee will probably work for 6 months, manager for a year or 2 years in advance, but the CEO needs to have a vision for 10, 20 years in advance. I have to make a blueprint. So I definitely have to have those kinds of skill sets.
일을 하시면서 가장 중요하게 생각하시는 세 가지의 스킬은 무엇이고
What are the top 3 skill sets that you think that you need, and what kind of skill sets do you think it is important for the students to have as well? Like I said earlier, to me, employees are really important. And I have worked for about almost 30 years. And from this experience, I have learned 3 things. First being that people can greatly differ depending on what kind of environment they live in. So if they go to a very noisy, loud place, you're gonna become really verbal and you're gonna raise your volume. And so the kind of environment you work in makes the person you are. And therefore, I find that the environment of the company is really important. So I think that's a really important skill to make that environment. Second skill set being that you need to be able to judge people, be discerning of people, which is not an easy thing at all. But when I'm interviewing like new employees, when I have to hire people for the executive board, etc., I have to interview them for 30 minutes, an hour. But I try my best to not hire anyone unless it seems like they are smarter than I am. The reason being that this person is able to contribute something to my company that this person is better at doing than I am. For example, they're better at speaking English or Korean, or they're really good at pro gaming, etc. So in whatever skill set that I am hiring for, they need to be really good at that, better than I am. The third thing being that when I do hire them, tell my employees, your capabilities need to always be assessed. And I learned this from my mentor, who was my homeroom teacher. He had told me that when his own child was a 5th grader, Korean parents and Asian parents, they all think that their own child is a genius. And so my classroom teacher was teaching his own child 6th grade, 7th grade level education when he was in 5th grade. And so if that child actually had 6th to 7th grade capabilities, he would be able to keep up. But if he does not have those capabilities and his capabilities only at the 4th grade level, then he will likely fall behind. So the point being that if your age is at the 5th grade, but you have the capability of a 4th grader, or contrarily, you have the level of a 6th or 7th grade student, because you need to teach each employee at the level and you have to give them responsibilities and duties that fit their capability. And what I usually do is, for 60% of their work, I give them things that they're used to doing, things that they're good at doing, and 40% being new and challenging work, because there needs to be a certain level and amount of newness and challenges. Otherwise, it will just be overwhelming for them. So you need to have that kind of well-balanced work, duties, responsibilities. And when you have achieved this balance, they will find interest in the work that they were doing and do it with great fun. The next question is, in your work, as you yourself had mentors, what is the importance of having a mentor, and how did mentors help you? Until now, I've learned a lot from my mentors, but I believe that a mentor, you kind of don't really manifest yourself as, here, I'm your mentor, but it just happens naturally in your workplace where, oh, this person is someone I can respect. I want to dress like this person. I want to speak like this person. Basically, like a role model. It just happens naturally. And you just find someone that you find yourself replicating, and they will at times have like catchphrases, and they stick in your mind. And one of the things I said earlier was, hire people who are smarter than you. But this is actually really hard, because the workplace is basically a competition. So if you hire people smarter than you, then they're gonna try to get ahead of you. Everyone's going to be competitive in this workplace. But on the other hand, if you are a good manager to the people under you, then you will in turn learn from the people who are better at certain skills than you. And so how this ties in is that you have to find people that can inspire you. And you have to find someone who you find, oh, I want to be coached by this person. I want to learn from this person. So it's not just a one-time conversation that you have with your mentor, but you might want to even have lunch dates with your mentor two or three times a month, and just converse about the problems or issues that you might face in work. But this is something that my mentor also taught me, but it is always best to have a one-on-one mentoring once a week or once a month. Do not talk about only business, but talk about anything that you would want, anything that comes to your mind. Because if you want to know if this person's capabilities is 4th, 5th, 6th grade level, you need to be able to have a gauge of this capability by talking to them a lot. Oh, this person likes to talk about this. This person has potential for this. They have potential for 10th grade level, but right now they're at the 4th grade level. Therefore, I will give this person a 5th grade level work so that this person has room to grow. So there needs to be a lot of cooperation and collaboration with your mentor and yourself. And you need to look forward 1 or 2 years and make goals as well.
저희 학생들은 이 중요한 멘토
Among our students, how would we ourselves find a good mentor? I think that's a very difficult question. You don't really find a mentor because you want to. Personally, when I was in high school, I had a mentor then as well. And this person, my teacher was an architect teacher, but this teacher never told me to study, but she always told me, go play, go have fun, go out with your friends, play games with your friends, and just enjoy your youth. And I wondered, why does my teacher not tell me to study? Why am I being advised to play a lot? And the reason was that I would not be able to do so in the future. And as she had told me this advice, I was asked, what kind of major do you want to choose? Where do you want to go to university? And because I had a good relationship with this person, oh, this person, I know that this person cares for me. This person is genuine for me. This person is a friend to me. And because I had this foundational bond, I was able to open up my heart and talk about my future, talk about my dreams. I want to draw in the future. I want to go into art. And my teacher recommended universities to me. And in the end, I didn't end up going to the place that I was recommended to, and I did not study what I was recommended. But having a mentor in itself was very helpful. But you can't really choose to have a mentor. Likewise, you can't predetermine or pre-decide, I'm going to be friends with that person and then become friends with that person. It just is a natural series of events. Just as you slowly become friends with someone, you slowly are going to be able to gain a mentor. And one day you'll find yourself learning a lot from this person. But in order that you be able to learn a lot, you'll have to converse a lot with them.
말씀 너무 잘 들었습니다.
Thank you for your remarks. My last question regarding networking. What is the importance of networking?
말씀해 주십시오.
And what is effective networking?
네트워킹 하면 그것도 사람들마다 좀 틀린 것 같아. 성격인 것 같아.
I think it's different based on who you are, based on personality. My personality is not very social. I don't go out to meet a lot of people. For example, if I were at a party, I'm not the kind of person to go and talk to people I don't know.
조용히 있고 싶고.
I usually am just quietly to the side. But when I am doing business, it's kind of unavoidable. I need to force myself to engage others. And so at first, it was really difficult for me. Networking was definitely a big hurdle that I had to overcome. And I myself had multiple mentors, but one of them had this person was into business and was a salesperson. But networking in that field is kind of an art, he was saying. It's not something that you can just do overnight. And when someone sings, there's some people who are better at singing pop songs or opera or jazz, etc. Just as everyone has different skill sets, even in the same field of singing. Likewise, in the realm of sales, everyone has different skills and everyone has personalities. And so I made my own style of networking based on my personality. And I found a comfortable way for myself to network with others. So I even bought a lot of books concerning how to become a good salesperson, how to network, how to run a business. But no matter how much I read, you can't learn to read. You can't learn to ride a bicycle by reading a book about bicycles. You need to try. So basically, I just had to push myself. And eventually, I found interest in networking. And rather than a salesperson, I was a engineer specialist. And so I needed to gain the trust of people in my field. I'm not someone who sells products like my mentor was, but rather I needed to introduce different kinds of products and their functions.
잘 성립이 되거든요. 비즈니스에서는 한쪽은 주는데 한쪽은 안 주면 그러니까 한쪽에서는 뭔가를 줬는데 그럼 이쪽에서는 고객이면 돈을 줘야 되는 거고 또 고객이 돈을 안 주면 여기서는 무슨 서비스를 할 이유가 없잖아요. 이게 두 개가 다 같이 윈윈이 돼야 되는 거라서 네트워킹도 똑같아요. 저는 지금 제가 이제 골프장에 이제 멤버십을 가지고 있는데 그 골프장에 회원권을 가지고 있는 이유도 거기 가면 멤버가 한 200 몇십 명이 되는데 되게 다양해요. 어떤 사람은 의사들이 많고 또 변호사들도 있고 그리고 제가 뉴욕 맨해튼에서 사는데 여기에 월스트리트에서 파이낸셜 하는 사람도 있고 IT 되게 많은데
Financing in Wall Street.
언젠가
And it's very helpful for me to know all these people. Eventually, they're going to be a help to me. So networking is important, but
내가 뭔가를 팔아야 된다.
networking is not something where you're always having to sell something to someone. It's not always the kind of mindset where I'm going to gain something from this person. I'm going to buy something from this person. But it's better to have a personal relationship. It's better to have a bond and a friendship with this person so that later when you do business or you need somebody's help, it's a lot more easier and it's a lot more casual to reach your hand out to this person and ask for help. If it's a very purely business relationship, it's not going to be a lasting relationship. And rather than having 100 networking relationships, it's better to have 10 true business, but also friendship relationships where you can also invite them over to your family's house to have a meal together and where your children can meet together and play together.
사실 깨지지 않고 그 사람이
And
또
this kind of networking will not break. And this person will even introduce to you other people. So I think that's a really good pro of having good networks. And like I said earlier, the whole point being you need to connect the dots. It's best to approach this in the big picture. Looking into the future, I want to have a long time, lifelong friendship with this person. It's not gonna end with just a one-time win. And so it's directly correlated to how you're going to live life.
여기까지 좋은 말씀과 조언 너무 잘 들었고요. 너무 감사드리고 다음 질문은 머리가 영어로 물어보고 인터뷰를 마치겠습니다. Thank you, Mr. Koo, again so much for your wise words and advice. Now I'll be handing it over to Buddy to ask the final question and conclude the interview.
Thank you so much, Audrey.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Mr. Koo, for answering those questions in Korean. Just to close this off, do you have any words of inspiration or closing words that you would like to share with students?
Oh, I think I already shared all my good words. I think if I sum it up, like there are many things. I mean, I'm very lucky in a way, And someone told me, yeah, I'm a novice golf player. I've been playing golf for many years, but even if I play on the same course over and over again, maybe you guys don't understand. You guys don't play golf much, but even the same course depends where the ball lands. Like it's an entirely different game. So life is all about. To me, it's playing golf. My father told me my life, he says, it's like golf. Because sometimes ball can land in right behind the tree. Sometimes it could be on the sand or whatever. There's a lot of times you could go through the tough life. But if you set a goal which is going forward and try to put on par on the next hole, that's what life is all about. So I talked about connecting a dot, try to envision what you're trying to be like 5 to 10 years from now. And the thing is, someone asked me, well, if you set a vision, if you set something, and what if you can't accomplish, or what if you don't like it along the way, right? The thing is, vision can change all the time, right? You try, but you need to manage yourself and trying to do it. And someone says, oh, so how can I find out what major I should be, in? Should I become, should I be computer science, or should I be majoring in economics, or should I be a pre-med student? It's very difficult. Even my kids, they're both in college, and they ask me the same question, and it's very hard. But um, what I did was, everybody's different. So maybe you guys can take my advice, or maybe you just, it could be something else. But I looked at, one of the toughest thing is you need to really be transparent with yourself. You should be very honest and try to figure out what you're really good at. It's not what you like, but what are you really good at. Because it, I have a personality where if I like math, and over time, I mean, if I'm good at math, then over time I like math. I become liking the math, right? So I had to understand what I'm really good at and try to frame that, and then try to look at what I'm going to be 5 to 10 years from now if I'm good at these type of things that I like to do. And I say, okay, then this is where I'm going to, what I need to do to, what I need to prepare and what I need to do the next year and next year to achieve that goal. And sometimes you might, do different thing at different time, but as long as you have this vision and think about, okay, this is what I'm going to be in 5 to 10 years from now, then you ended up becoming that person, or at least you're going to be improve every year. Like you're going to be very different person, better person every year. So I think one of the things, I mean, high school, I think you guys should enjoy it, because you don't, I mean, time is the sense. Like you can't go back to high school year. I mean, I wish I could go. Maybe I don't want to go back to high school, but but it's a 4 year, that lifetime long journey. That's when you try to explore and try to do a lot of different things, right? Um, and then college goes really fast. So you have only 4 years in college, maybe five, and if you don't set your career right there, then you might have some hurdles. But life is a long journey in a way, and you could frame it in many different ways. I was very lucky. I was very lucky that I never changed my field once I get into computer science. Some of my friends, they switched major a couple of times. They changed their career a few times in their career, but the thing is, what you want it to be 5 years from now is very important, because it doesn't matter what you do now, and it doesn't matter if you change your career a couple of times in life. As long as you have a dream and you have a vision, then I think that makes who you are. So um, that's the that applies to everyone, not just for students like you guys, but also to employees. A lot of times I tell my employees during one-on-ones, what are you going to do? Like, if you don't know what you're going to do, then how can you enjoy your life? And if you don't enjoy your life, then how can you enjoy working at any company like Samsung or whatever the company where you that work? So I think try to be positive and try to make a lot of friends, and try to have mentor, someone can coach you, guide you. It's different from your parents. Sometimes parents could be a good coach, but a lot of times they're not. So you might want to kind of look at it in a different perspective. But that's what I can say. It's a long journey, and you just have to go with yourself and try to maneuver. Sometimes it's like a navigation. I tell my employees, you set it to destination A. Sometimes you misstep and you went to wrong route, but it's gonna end up going there. It might take a few more minutes, or whatever. But as long as you have the destination, and also you could change your destination if you like. I mean, that's what they call typical now. They call it agile approach, right? You can change it whenever, because you don't want to stuck with one destination. Sometimes that's not what you want, right? So you could quickly change it, but be happy, and as long as you have a vision, then you will be happy. Without a vision, then I don't know. Like I never, there's a maybe 2 3 times in my life I was in depression because I woke up and then wow, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do today. And that's very depressing for me, right? Because I think I achieved what I really like to do 5 years ago. I achieved. Well, so you have to continue to figure out, okay, now I think I accomplished what I visioned 5 years ago. Now what I'm going to do next, right? You always have to have what's next. Otherwise, it's gonna be a very tough journey for you. So hopefully, I know, hopefully, I'm sure you guys can do much better than when I was in high school, because it's very different now, right? Like the computers are in every school and every home. When I was in high school, I didn't have a computer. There was only small number of computers in the lab in the high school. But it's, things are very different now. So you guys have many, many different opportunities. So I hope you guys can enjoy while you can, and enjoy your life and shoot for the star.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. And
Okay.
just, yeah, thank you so much for answering our questions here at BSc. And I think we have a little bit of time left for questions that students have been asking over the course of the webinar. So I know we don't have time for all of them, but we will at least ask the most popular ones. First of which is,
okay.
what were the most memorable projects that you worked on while you were at Microsoft?
Oh, there's so many. I think oh, I remember. So um, we shipped Visual Studio 6.0. Visual Studio is a computer programming tool um, that Microsoft developed. So there, and so we did that, and we spent probably 2 years working, days and nights, and even weekends. And when we shipped it, we have a ship party, right? And there's a small lake in front of my office. And Microsoft employees, they all have their own office. Like, it was very fortunate. And I was sitting right in front of this small lake, and it's called Bill Gates Lake. So, during the ship party, we all jump into the lake, and you go wow and crazy. And that was the very. I think all the projects are very memorable, but that was something that I cherish, because that was one very first project that I went and participate the whole product life cycle, the 2 years from end to end, and so that was very memorable for me.
That sounds really, really exciting.
Mhm.
And then the second question from the students, where do you derive the motivation to continue leading, innovating, and working with pride?
Ah, okay. That's, I don't know. It's not something that like I learned from. Maybe I do. Like my when I'm the youngest, I have two older sisters, and my, my mother and my older sister, they always tell me about good things, like, oh, even if I do something, if I won a contest in a drawing contest, and they say they think that I'm the best in the world, and they give me all this prize. So I always think that I was the smartest person. Well, that's not true, but they gave me something to prove. So I was trying to figure out, I don't know what's the word, ego, or there's something that, like, my father taught me. He says you need to set a goal and try to achieve, and that's something that I think I had to learn to live with. So golf, I'm going back to golf again, or any sports, right? I think the one thing that you need to do is that you have other players that you need to compete with, but I think the biggest competitor is yourself. If you can control yourself, and if you can uh, um, try to manage yourself, then it's very difficult. So for me, I think that's what I did. I try to motivate, try to challenge myself, right, to become better person each day. And that makes me happy because that makes me who I am, and I think that's the reason why I live. Right? I think a lot of people does that too, and also because I do that, I get a lot of respect from others, and I think I could contribute more to the society and also the company and people around me. Right? So I think that motivates me, and that's the reason why I motivate myself. But everybody's different, so
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know.
And then I guess it's another question sort of about mindset. How does your mindset play into the decision you make in your day-to-day job?
Mm. Someone said that everybody make a decision about 3 to 4 times a day. I mean, 3 to 4 thousand times a day. Like you know, when you wake up, you have to decide, am I going to wake up at 6 o'clock or 6:15? And then when alarm goes off, then you snooze it. And that's another decision making. So every day you're making several thousand times of decisions each day. I think um, it's when I make a decision, I don't know, maybe more than half, I make a decision based on the experience, so with the facts. So I was trying to figure out uh, where's the logic, where's the rationale, why do I have to do it? But rest maybe 30% is intuition, right? But so once you have 5 years, 10 years, even 30 years of working experience, then you have 30 years of experience, which is your knowledge. So that's where you get these intuitions. And then 67% is most likely you're trying to figure out, oh, why do I need to, when I make a decision, uh, what's the pros and cons, and where does this data coming from? So you need to do some fact findings, because you know, if I make a mistake, then I don't have anybody to blame to. I don't report to anybody here in the United States. So I have to take a response for all the actions that I'm making. So first, you could get very nervous, because sometimes if you make a wrong mistake, then you lose, tens of millions of dollars. But sometimes you make a wrong decision, then your company can go bankrupt. So there's a lot of mistakes you don't want to make. So what I do is I'm making a decision based on, I have 12 people who is reporting to me as a staff. I have other people, but they're the staff, and we do staff meeting every morning, and that's where we do a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions, and based on the discussions, I collect those data and thoughts, their thoughts, and I make the final decision. So it's not just my decision. I collect data from all these individuals who have 20 plus years of experience, plus my experience, and there are some caveat, which is intuitions, and a lot of times we're making a pretty good decisions based on that.
Awesome. And then this next question is in Korean, so I'm going to pass it off to Audrey to ask that.
Okay.
네, 다음 질문은 일단은 제 자신이 완벽하지 않다는 것을 인정하고
The next
바라본다.
question is, do you yourself acknowledge your own flaws or your imperfections in terms of business? I don't find myself to be perfect, but I think that's what makes life fun. Because if you are perfect, if you find yourself to be perfect, then that's a really dull life. If you eat steak every single day, then for 1 or 2 days it might be great, but for 30 days it's going to be disgusting. And so everybody needs to have flaws, and everybody needs to have room to grow, in order that you can also have something like ambition. You can also have a sense of accomplishment. You've achieved something greater than your current ability. And that's also growth in your career, upgrade in the level of work that you do. If I were to retire from Microsoft, and back then I was in my late 30s, if I had retired, I would have had nothing else to do for all my life. people aspire to be perfect, but it's very sad to already be perfect or think yourself to be already perfect. And in order to be perfect, you need to know what your imperfections are. And so you need to be really good at analyzing yourself. And another lesson that I learned from one of my mentors was that not everyone cannot be good at everything. And so you can't despair at the fact that you were not good at a certain thing. Just don't do it. If you're not good at cooking, just spend your money to buy food. You don't need to be good at cooking. There are a few things that you should be good at, and that's what your pride is. When your pride is hurt, the reason why it's hurt is because you have not achieved the level that you want at something that you are good at. Although I am not good at everything over others, but in the one or two things that you do think that you're better than others, but when somebody offends this pride of yours, it's because it has to do with the thing that you're good at. And so for pride, your pride can be in singing, it can be in math, it can be in cooking. But it's good to know what you're good at, even though you're not perfect.
완벽하게 만들려고 프로세스를 하는 거죠. 그게 재밌는 거예요. 그렇게 하는 게.
그렇군요. 네, 너무 감사드리고 다음 질문은 buddy가 영어로 드리겠습니다. Buddy.
Yep, thank you so much. And then just to close us off, our final question will be, what methods do you use to assess your executives?
Wow. Okay. That's in a way, it's somewhat simple in a way, and sometimes it's very sophisticated. But every executive have their own KPIs, and a lot of times the people said that that's one of the things I learned when I was at Microsoft. The KPIs means you have your very objectives, right? Things that you need to accomplish within 6 months or a year. Mostly it's a year for executives, and every KPI there's we have up to like 10 items in the KPI, and which make up 100 points. Every KPI has to be measurable. If it's not, it can be measured, then you cannot set a goal. So everything has to be measurable. So the executive has 50%. It goes with the obviously number, because we have to make profit. So there's a revenue profit, and the rest are how you're going to make that profit. Right? It's a how you do it. It's a quality of your work. So sometimes you say, okay, I'm going to go into new business. Sometimes you say, oh, I want to get into telecom or whatever. So you make up that KPIs, and that's how you do it. The rest of other percentage is based on 360 degree review. So you have employees who's working for them, then you do a random survey to measure the executives, wide range, like their personality, their leadership, their interpersonal skill, a lot of different things. So they do that. They also do a survey for their co-workers and their managers. So we have a 360 view of their leadership skills. And that actually is a part of this their assessment. What else? That's pretty much it. So that make up. So there's a leadership, the personality, how they run the business, and how they interact with the customer, and then the KPI, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you so
Very
much.
tough.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think we're just about time. So I just want to thank you so much for answering our questions here at VC and these student questions that were thought of. I mean, the answers that you were able to provide us with here have been really helpful and inspirational. I'm sure that the students that were able to view our session today, as well as the students that'll view this later, will be able to really learn a lot from what you were able to share with us here today. So I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you for having me. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.